the mighty Justice Network. I shall speak. When I say silence is wicked, when I silence is a prison that incarcerates the truth about tomorrow. What is my truth? I have always said, for the longest time, I have seen the best flower blooms. That is ordinary. But I have seen the Justice Network flower that blooms. That is extraordinary. Justice is indeed worthy of a celebration. Here we are, building the next generation of Justice champions. Time after time, Justice has stood the test of time. Us before us after us, now more than ever. The 6th International Justice Academy. This is such a testimony. Justice is indeed worthy of a celebration. Here we are, building the next generation of Justice champions. Justice is a beautiful thing we have seen. Justice is worthy of the praise we have said. Viva Justice, viva! Viva Justice, viva! Justice is indeed worthy of a celebration. Here we are. Once upon a time, a wise man once said, friends and neighbors complain that indeed the taxes are very heavy on us. If those laid on by the government are the only ones we have to pay, we might more easily discharge them. But we have many more others, much deeper to some of us. We express our iconness, 3 times as much for our pride, 4 times as much for the lack of knowledge, lack of understanding. The people, the mighty Justice Network, man is not stubborn as a donkey. Man is open-minded. Man is open to change. Man can change his mind. The greatest evolution to this is evolution. Man never paid tax yesterday. Man pays tax today. Man will give up tax even tomorrow. If man is made to understand why he pays tax. If man sees why he pays tax. Thank you.
Take a look at Africa and tell me what you see. Broken homes, empty schools, the depth of poverty. They're taking all the gold, they're taking all the diamonds, with no development or benefit to Africans. Greedy corporations, corrupt politicians, conniving against the progress of the continent. The consequence of ignorance is conflict. Africa, they taking apart for its resources. The politics of economics, waste and profit. Follow the money, it will show you where the source is. Financial secrecy in underground economies. What's independence when we're living like we're colonies? Africa is rich, but Africans are poor. My people pray for peace, but all they get is war. It's time to raise a feast and demand more from the system. Together all we all fall. Stop the bleeding, stop the bleeding. Mother Africa is dying from this looting. Stop the bleeding, stop the bleeding. Mother Africa is dying from this looting.
Stop the bleeding, stop the bleeding. Our people have suffered enough to say. Stop the bleeding, stop the bleeding. Our people have suffered enough to say. Stop the bleeding, stop the bleeding. Our people have suffered enough to say. Stop the bleeding, stop the bleeding. Our people have suffered enough to say.
They got diamonds under the soles of their feet, but nothing in their stomachs, so they broken and weak. MNCs extracting all the gold they can reach, living waste while they send the profits over the seas. CEOs toasting with the shareholders they meet, while the local population...
Oh, thank you very much. So what you just saw was talent that we have embedded with us. So we're going to be meeting Mademoiselle Mukesi later on tomorrow. She has a live presentation here. So I think we can give her a huge round of applause. I think she did an awesome job. So what I want to do is that right now, we've got a keynote speaker who is pressed for time. I know we've dragged on a little bit, but we'll re-energize a bit. I want to introduce the moderator for today's session. He's a well-known individual from Niger. His background is actually in geology and mining. And I asked him, how did you end up becoming an MP? He said, look, the story of life is dynamic. From geology and mining, he got into oil and gas taxation. And, I asked him why. He said, I like the complexity. Tu sais, j'aime pas les choses simples. J'aime les choses complexes. So he said he liked the complexity of it, and I asked him, so what do you do in your spare time when you are relaxing and taking time off? He says, j'ai pas de temps, I have no time. I'm always on the job, 24/7. Et même maintenant, si j'allume mon téléphone, mon portable, I'll get 50 phone calls at one time. So he's always on the job, and we're very honored to have him right now. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Honorable Mr. Pirfa Tiem, who is going to be hosting this particular session. Big round of applause to him.
Thank you. Thank you, Meek. Good afternoon, everyone. I'll try to go around. Bonsoir for the French speakers. And Habari Zenu, I hope I got it right. Yes. Then from Nigeria, one of the most popular languages that is spoken around where I come from is Hausa. So I think it's best I greet you in Hausa language too. So Inaini. Beautiful. Then I'm going to take you down to the macro level, my small dialect. And I think one or two people would understand here. Ofa Sangya. I knew it. So good afternoon, everyone. I would like to do justice to the keynote speaker. But first of all, I want to thank TGNA for putting us out like this. But then I would like to warn you also, as an MP, I cannot say so much because, I cannot go against government. We are part of government. So, so if it gets to that point, I might choose to be quiet. So I hope everyone gets to understand. Yeah, so when I was going through his bio, I was like, wow. I met Imane Masala here, the head of the Tanzanian Revenue Institute, and then I met one of the MPs, Zongo, and I didn't know I was going into politics. A few years down the line, I'm here. So when I saw doctors, I saw lecturers around, I was like, I hope that's not telling me I'm going to end up as a lecturer in the next few years, because somehow I kind of meet people that define my path at TGNA conferences. So thank you to TGNA for making it possible for us to bring the little we know and expose ourselves at this platform. So Dr. Mugambi, I hope I got the name right. There are so many things he has achieved within the space of the span of his life, and it is an inspiration for me. So he's the commissioner and head of the Kenyan School of Revenue Administration. Beautiful. I love people who head schools because that's where you meet the most complex issues. They meet students, especially when you have intelligent students. They kind of push you, and then a lot of ideas, and a lot of issues are trashed out at that level. And then I wouldn't bore you with so much because he's on the if you want to know more about him, he's on the webpage. You can look at it, and I'm sure you'll be as marveled as myself. But one thing that stood out is he worked with KRA, which is a beauty because a lot of people, even I have a few colleagues here who worked with me at the Federal Revenue Service in Abuja, and a few of us are not there anymore, but the background, the basis still has to come from the experiences we had before finding our paths in life. That gave us the direction, that gave us the foundation that we're standing upon today. So the beauty is he worked with Kiari, and he's the founding director of the Mombasa campus of the JKU, of the Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture and Technology. And he has published 3 books. beautiful. I'm sure he will soon be a professor. Maybe the next time I see him, he's going to be a professor. And in the past, he has also done consultancy and training tasks for many national and international organizations. So I think I've said so much and I've said very little, but with all this, I'm sure I've put him on the limelight. And if you don't mind, I would like to welcome Dr. Fred Mugambi. We're going to do a little adjustment. He has to leave at 4, so I would allow him speak, and then we throw our questions at him. And after he's done, the other members of the panel will come up, and then we'll do our thing. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Prefer. We respect members of parliament in Kenya greatly, partly because they summon us to parliament all the time. And so we interact with them quite a bit. And you know, the summoning does not end. And so Honorable Prefer has just summoned me to come before you and talk to you. So, at your service, sir. And so, I want to thank everybody in this room, the organizers, Alvin over there, the entire team, ladies and gentlemen, and I want to join my Kenyan colleagues in welcoming those of us that are not from this country into this country. This is a country where time owns us from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. And from 5 p.m. to 8 a.m., we own time. And so I know today we might extend a bit. Perhaps we'll own the time after 6 p.m. And so we also we welcome you to own the time with us, you know, at the end of these very important engagements here. And so, again, I want to seek your indulgence. I should have stayed for the panel, but there is an extremely important meeting that I cannot avoid later on across town on the other side. And so, ladies and gentlemen, I will give very few remarks on the subject that we are looking at today. Digitalization of revenue administration, opportunities and challenges beyond efficiency for revenue collection. And if you're a pessimist, then you dwell on the word challenges and you stay there. If you are not a pessimist and therefore you have a positive outlook to things, then you dwell on the word opportunities and you stay there. And so I'm going to look at both, but then I am largely going to dwell on the opportunities that are there, because as an employee of a tax administration, I cannot start imagining that there may be challenges that will stop us from funding government projects. And so I will, look at a lot of the opportunities that lie within this new space, which is a digital space. And so, ladies and gentlemen, the world is transforming at unprecedented speeds. And at the center of this mega evolution are various drivers. And I'm going to talk about 3. And these are drivers that I see as being absolutely important. And these 3 drivers are people, data, and technology. Let's talk about people for a moment. And so the human race, and in corporate organizations, the human resources, as we know them, are completely different from what they used to be a few years back. Workspaces have now been effectively taken over by intelligent, suave, and tech-savvy, but somewhat erratic, and of course to the old guard, somewhat unstable millennials. And the millennials define things differently. They perceive things differently. And so their definitions and perceptions about work and life goals, ways of work, etiquette of work, patriotism to employer, patriotism to country, and other aspects of work and life have radically departed from the tradition. This generation is radically redefining the workspace, and in the process creatively destabilizing organizational structures, systems, and processes. They are redefining loyalties and therefore moving what we might call the pendulum of loyalty from the organization to the self and to the customer. Previously, loyalties were to the organization. They are redefining this. This generation is silently but surely setting off a huge workplace revolution. We might want to call it the human resource renaissance. However, although on the surface this looks like a purely HR coup, the real catalysts playing behind the scenes are without a doubt data and technology. And so let's turn to data and technology. And I want to pose a question to all of us. Could it be that the human resource renaissance that I just talked about is perhaps a smokescreen of a bigger and more forceful revolution, the data and technology revolution? Are the millennials telling us something that we are not listening to? Are the millennials an avenue to communicate a revolution bigger than any revolution that has happened in this world? So a few years ago, manual systems were replaced by computers. And you will recall, some of you, that not long ago, data was stored in a 5.25-inch floppy disk with a capacity of barely 98.5 kilobytes of data. How many of us saw the 5.25-inch floppy disk? Then we moved from that and went to the 3.5-inch floppy disk with a capacity of about 161.2 kilobytes of data, which is 1 page, 1.5 pages. I wanted to carry one, but I couldn't find it. Right now, on my desk, I have a hard drive of 1 terabyte, which I'm told is about 1 billion kilobytes. And for a moment, a few of us may have believed that after this mega change, we would experience a long break of stability before any other changes would happen. However, even before the dust could settle, computers started getting a lot more intelligent and complex. Powered by newly designed decision support systems, managers could make better decisions faster and at significantly lower costs. And so the real evolution began. Computers were built into vehicle dashboards, phones transformed into mini powerful computers, search engines flattened the world of knowledge, and the list is endless. Of course, it was at this point that many early adopter tax administrations in Africa got into the fray. We are now at what I believe is the cusp of the next technology and data revolution. This revolution will be more destabilizing than anything we have witnessed before, especially with regard to tax administrations. The coming revolution will bring along endless opportunities and possibilities, but also leave behind unprecedented casualties. Yuval Noah Harari, who is a celebrated Israeli academic, puts this in rather graphic words. And this is what he says. He argues that this revolution shall effectively shift power from people to algorithms. These algorithms will predict the future and develop their own ways to derive value from that future. They'll even go further and derive that value themselves with very little human intervention. Of course, the human resource will still be useful, but only for tasks that require people's skills and complex leadership and cognitive skills. Yuval goes on to say this, that this revolution will resultantly create large pools of what he calls useless, unemployable human beings, whose skill levels shall badly fall short of what will be needed to manage these algorithms. We do not have a timeline, but you can see the speed at which technology is moving. And therefore, there is no doubt that we are currently in the midst of a whirlwind of technological change, and artificial intelligence, machine learning, robotics, cloud capabilities, blockchain technologies, and many other technologies are rapidly advancing. And as they advance, they are also fusing among themselves, and in the process creating new complementary capabilities. In the next decade, we will certainly start seeing a fusion between infotech and biotech. The resultant shifts will be devastating in significant ways, and in the process, they are expected to unsettle the workspace and our organizations in unprecedented ways. Let's put in the context of taxation now. And the future of tax collection and the war on illicit financial flows must align to this new future. Tax administrations across Africa will need to translate into algorithmic systems with high predictive capacities. They will need to engage highly intelligent robots for customs processes like container scanning and container movements within customs areas. They will need to engage chatbots and intelligent self-service systems to facilitate services to taxpayers. They'll need to claim full view of internet gateways and online payment platforms in order to fully tap taxes from all transactions in the rapidly growing digital space. Tax administrations will need to embrace technologies with immutable data storage capabilities, such as blockchain technologies. They will need to push for policies that designate them as convergence points for all transactional data in a country, and also push for policies that provide them with, and I know this is mushy ground now, with unfettered access to all forms of transactional data. They will need to invest in high-level intelligence gathering systems, including systems that can dig into digital platforms and identify incongruences that might point to tax evasion issues. They will also need to push their governments to digitize other government systems in a harmonized manner to allow them access to high quality overarching data. Of course, as these rights are granted, there will also need to be enacted laws that ensure that these provisions are managed professionally. Conversations around issues like data privacy and in view of the need to enforce full compliance with tax laws will need to be canvassed, and the right balances will need to be struck. What are we doing at the Kenya Revenue Authority? We are marching towards this space. We have a number of technologies that we have rolled out. We have what we call the iTax system through which we pay, taxes are paid here. The integrated customs management systems for customs processes. Of course, together with our neighbors, and I'm sure this might have been said before, we have our regional electronic cargo tracking systems, data warehouses complete with specialized data lakes. We are in the process of developing mobile apps. We are integrating various systems, including our systems with government payment systems. And of course, we are riding on the national journey that is being taken through the Ministry of ICT. And of course, I'm proud as a Kenyan to say that we are one of the countries that has already developed an integrated national plan on the digital economy. And there's a document that the Ministry of ICT has developed. As I come to the conclusion, at the continental level, key agencies that have the mandate to fight illicit financial flows, for instance, shall need to be facilitated with technology-driven intelligence and data sharing systems and facilitative laws to boot. For example, immigration and customs departments across boundaries need to be able to share seizures and related cases across the continent in real time. If, for example, someone is arrested at the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport carrying ivory, I believe that information should be shared in real time across the continent so that we can protect other markets. And of course, there are many other non-technology interventions, and I don't want to go into the details of this, but include restructuring our economies so that we do not have the, for example, with agriculture, where agriculture, for example, in this country, is contributing about 32 to 34% of the GDP and only contributing 2% in tax. And that is what is repeated across the continent. We will need to re-engineer our systems, our government systems. We might need to reevaluate incentive schemes and to align them with their true benefit to the economy. We might need to develop united African positions and push these united African positions to international forums so that I'm not in Geneva as Kenya and my friend is in Geneva as Uganda, and so we are agreeing at the door on what we are going to be saying when we get into the room. That's the only way we are going to be able to protect our taxing rights as a continent and curtail profit shifting. These interventions will go a long way to ensure that the tax load is not only shared equitably across our economies, but that we also realize all taxes. This is the only way we shall finance our own development and reclaim our freedoms and dignity at the international arena. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Doctor. Like I mentioned earlier, I think it's fair. Okay, sorry, Doctor, you're supposed to sit here. Even if it's for a minute. Please. Thank you. I didn't summon you, actually. So I think I would suggest, that the audience ask a few questions so that he can answer and then head out. And as a matter of note, let's try to make it short and straight to the point so that we don't waste time. So can we indicate by show of hands so that, okay, that's one, that's two, okay, three. So you're one, you're two, okay, you're four. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? Okay, 5. So 1, please.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Olusegun Elemo. I'm from Nigeria. My question to Dr. this afternoon has to do with tax policy and tax structure in Africa. Facebook was established in 2004. 15 years after, we're still trying to find out what exactly and how exactly we should tax Facebook in Africa. So I want to ask you, because the speaker in the morning talked about the fact that innovation has to come first before we can look at tax policies and tax structure to tax such innovations. I partly agree with him, but I also want to ask you, what do you see a role for strategic foresight in taxation, especially in Africa, and going forward, because we're trying to catch up with innovation every time. Is there any, if you agree that there is a role for strategic foresight or foresight thinking around taxation and tax policies, is there any country in Africa today that has a department of foresight? And what would you suggest that such foresight or such strategic foresight structure should be, so that we can, because of corporate innovation is growing fast, then the tax policies also has to go ahead such that when innovation comes, it comes to meet some tax structure and tax policy on the ground, even though we may not fully understand it, but that can give us a go, so that it doesn't take us another 15 years when a new innovation comes. Thank you very much.
So please, we ask all the questions, he answers all at once. But let's try to stick with it. We should make it short and straight to the point, please.
My name is Marion Guy. I work with civil society organization in Kenya. And so my question is that, do you think Kenya and other African governments are actually ready to join in the global conversation on digital taxation and the digital economy in broad? Because you mentioned about the document in reference to Kenya now, to be specific. You mentioned about the document by the ICT, the Ministry of ICT. And I happened to go through the document. It's the blueprint, right? And when you look at the content of that document, you actually realize that it misses the global conversation, because the kind of taxes that, or rather the digital economy that Kenya is focusing on is on mobile transactions, what else? Mobile transaction. And you actually realize that these taxes have a direct impact on the consumer, who is the taxpayer, instead of having an impact on the multinational companies who get profits and actually shift them to their mother countries. So maybe you can just give a clarification on that. that, and actually just tell us if the government is ready to actually join into this conversation and actually easing the tax burden on citizens. Because I know it's the whole point is to increase the tax base, but as we increase the tax base, we should see it reflect on the common mwananchi so that the tax burden is actually easing. Thank you.
Daktari, thank you for being here. My question is this idea of digitalization. Huh? Oh, my name, Leila Latif. Yes. So if a company is in Kenya and the purchaser is in Uganda, right? The issue of VAT is cross-jurisdictional. I'm just wondering, like, for example, with the regional economic blocks, right, the East Africa community, has KRA come up with a harmonized system to capture VAT in real time? And do you think there's a possibility of getting that done with, limited infrastructure? Thank you.
Thank you so much for that excellent presentation. My name is Deborah James, and I'm with the Our World Is Not for Sale Network, which works on WTO. And I'm so interested to hear all these innovative ideas coming from the Revenue Authority about how to deal with the digitalization. And I wonder if you might also be aware of the negotiations happening that were just launched this year in the WTO on digital economy, because they include 7 different provisions that would limit Kenya's ability to tax, including having a permanent waiver on customs duties on electronic transmissions. So that means in the future, when you have most of your products are digitally printed, that your tariff structure basically would collapse. There would be no tariffs allowed on any digitally printed products. Removal on tariffs on information technology, raising your de minimis, and then also things like banning governments from being able to require source code disclosure, which a lot of governments do to make sure that companies are not cheating on their taxes. So I'm asking because Kenya just announced that it's joining these negotiations last month. And I was wondering if the tax administration had been consulted by the government when it decided to join these negotiations, because there's a lot of implications for the tax collection. Thank you very much.
More investments to give tax incentives to wealthy multinationals, yet even in this region and as integrated as East African community can be, you're still racing to the bottom. Can you tell us what justifies that still, that the government still wanted to give tax holidays to these wealthy multinationals?
These are a couple of questions. And let me start with the last one. The one on tax incentives. If you look at various documents that have been developed across the world, not just in Africa, you'll notice that incentives rank perhaps anything from number 10 when it comes to making a decision to invest in a country. There are other things that are more important than that. A facilitative environment, cost of power, that is electricity, the laws that are there. And so, and this is my personal opinion, it is very important that we, not just as a country, but as a continent, that we really reevaluate the benefit of incentives and compare that with what those incentives actually contribute to our economies. I mean, truth be told, we have situations where, and I'm talking about Africa, we have situations where companies are given tax holidays because of their unique status. Perhaps these are players within special economic zones, and they're given a tax holiday for 10 years. What do they do on the 10th year? They terminate and rebrand and start operations as new companies. But also we need to ask ourselves questions other than employment, and we can ask ourselves what the level of that employment is. Other than employment, are we able to quantify the other benefits? I'm not saying that I have an answer. And I'm not saying that the Kenya Revenue Authority has a position. I'm just trying to say that this is something that we need to have a conversation about and ask ourselves whether what we are losing in terms of taxes is compensated from the other side by the benefits that these companies bring to Africa. But let me also go further and ask ourselves, most of these companies that we give tax incentives, are they local companies in your countries? What does that portend then for the company that is homegrown in your country that perhaps may not be able to attract those incentives? And so I'm just saying that we need to have a lot more dialogue around incentives, not just as a country, but also as a continent. WTO negotiations, yes, I'm aware that there are some negotiations that are going on, but I need to check the level of involvement, especially with regard to, especially as far as my organization is concerned. Of course, we know government is one, and normally government would consult among itself, and sometimes it may not be necessary to have physical appearance in every meeting, but as long as the positions of government are canvassed or are represented in that meeting, then that becomes adequate. But I would need to check the level of involvement on this. There is the issue of VAT across jurisdictions, and frankly, I do not see a problem myself on this, and I'll explain why. Tax laws are very clear with regard to jurisdictional taxing processes, but also with regard to what we might call significance, economic presence, which is a concept that determines then what is taxed and how much is taxed. Now, I know countries have different laws, but we also have a self-declaration mechanism in this country. And in every tax jurisdiction, you'll find a gray area. And that is why conversations then have to be held between the tax authority and the organization that experiences the gray area. What is important for us to note is that revenue authorities in various countries are up to 30, sometimes 35, sometimes 25% shareholders in your business. And so, actually the tax authority is an absent director in your business. And so the message we are sending out, especially at the Kenya Revenue Authority, is that we are not strangers. We are partners in business. Perhaps businesses need to go to tax administrations, sometimes just for advice. Because like I said, we are shareholders together. And so allow me to stop there on that. But there is an interesting one here on from Marion on local conversations around the digital economy versus the global conversations. You cannot go to the global arena to start a conversation if you do not have a country position. This is the problem. The Western world and countries like India, which have, India has the equalization levy. And by the way, I would want you to look at how the equalization levy has been implemented. It is not a traditional tax. Actually, it is not implemented within the Tax Act. It's slightly outside that provision. But that's a conversation for another day. But what I'm trying to say is that as a country, what you're trying to do is to develop a country position. And we cannot develop a country position, without having to go through, a lot of studies to understand our situations, to be able then to come up with a blueprint that we can have conversations around. And of course, as a result of that, then say, this is how we see it as Kenya. And my challenge is, can we develop country positions? And then, possibly using the avenue of African Tax Administration Forum, I feel that this is a forum that we are underutilizing. We can then meet there, possibly, and other African agencies need to support ATAF. We can meet there and thrash out an African position. And then we head to Paris or wherever else with an African position that is good for us. Because someone said very aptly that Facebook is not from here. Google is not from here. And you saw what happened with Google the other day? The big penalty. All these companies are not from here. And talking as a Kenyan, I am selfish. If I'm dealing with a Kenyan business, I want to protect the Kenyan business. So what if Google seeks support from the country where it is registered, and we do not have a position here? But then there is another conversation that we need to have. How much value do these companies derive from Africa? All these companies, by the way, have significant presence in your economies. They do. And therefore, it is not right that the person we call in Kenya a mama mboga, the lady who sells, green groceries at the corner, is the one carrying the tax burden when Google then is led to escape at the altar of protecting the users. Of course, it's not a complete conversation, but this is a conversation that we need to continuously have. Finally, tax policy and strategic foresight from Shegun from Nigeria. Now, and I may not, of course, have the authority to speak on behalf of our sister tax administrations in Africa, but I'll talk about my organization. The Kenya Revenue Authority has elevated a number of departments to the highest levels in a tax administration. So for example, you'll find that we have a department under a commissioner that is called Strategy, Innovations, underline the word innovations, innovations and risk management. What this department is doing is basically strategic thinking for the authority. This is where, for example, data warehouses, and I talked of data lakes and so on, are domiciled. And so we have a department whose daily work is basically to do predictive analytics, study macroeconomic situations, and therefore be able to advise not just the Kenya Revenue Authority, but the government as well. The other thing that we have done as an authority is to elevate the training school to commissioner level. Again, what that means is that then the school is able to have the clout to be able to train in some of these complex and upcoming technologies. For instance, when a school is elevated to that level, it becomes very easy to have conversations, for the school to have conversations with large international organizations. And so perhaps one of the things I think that our authority has done well is to elevate, some of these units to levels where then they are able to engage at the international level. But so the answer is yes, we are actively engaged in strategic foresight, or what I would call strategic thinking. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah, I think we can do better. He's a doctor. I wish to ask, sorry, sir. There are a few people who have questions to ask. If they can pass the question to members of the secretariat, they can send you a mail, then you can make your responses available so that he can meet up with his meeting. Yes.
Email address is fred.mwirigi, mwirigi@kra.go.ke. I'll just seek indulgence. That's my colleague over there, and I know he won't.
Please.
Thank you, Commissioner. My name is Chanda Stephen. VAT Technical Committee. I just wanted to respond to one of those questions. He has done very well. Thank you, Commissioner. The one which was on regional economic bloc and VAT. I think the East African community has not yet harmonized the VAT rates. And therefore, for the time being, if it is taxable in Kenya, it will be general rate, maybe 16%. When it goes to Uganda, it is treated as an export from Kenya. It is zero rated. So for the time being, we have not yet harmonized the tax rates. And therefore, in terms of, as we approach the digital environment, I think those are some of the items that are being discussed. And the involvement of Kenya and probably African tax administrations in the digital environment. ATAF is involved in the conversation under the OECD, under the working party number 9, where myself and the 2 other members of the committee are involved. The latest document on the role of a digital platform in collection of VAT ATAF was fully represented, and as we roll out, the same will be picked, and they will try to customize the same as a continent. Thank you.
Thank you. So while the doctor leaves, I want to share an experience. When I got to the airport, thank you. When I got to the airport, thank you, I forgot that courtesy. So when I got to the airport on my way to the hotel, the cab driver that picked me up was chatty and all, and he was like, you know, in Kenya, we have very wonderful laws, but the challenge is implementation. Then I was like, really? Can you tell me why you think so? So we went down that road, and then I realized something. We all have similar arrangements in Africa. It confirms that we are all the same. We have similar challenges. We have similar expectations. We have similar expectations, even from our leaders. And which brings me to suffice. One word I learned. Tuko pamoja. Did I say it right? Thank you. So, before the MC does his thing, the doctor talked about the administration processes in Kenya, talked about the digitalization, and I feel I'll do a little bit of justice to talk about what I know about my country, Nigeria. This is going to open up our thoughts and also help us understand where possible challenges are going to come from. But before that, okay, so now, when you talk about the digitalization in Nigeria, one of the beautiful things that we've done is to set up something similar to what Kenya has. Kenya has ITAS, we have ITAX. Sorry, Kenya has ITAX, Nigeria has ITAS, which is an integrated tax administration system. Now, Nigeria went further to do what we call a UTIN. Man, the UTIN means a unique tax identification number. They went a step further to synergize the arrangements, the connection, between the tax authority at the federal level, the tax authority at the state level, and then the CAC. CAC is the Corporate Affairs Commission. That is where you go to register your company, you do all the needful. So immediately your company is registered, the tax authority can have access to that, and then you get a tax identification number. Every company has that unique number. But then what ITAS has done is to help provide a platform where you can do your online, your electronic filings, and then you pay. It even went further. Nigeria went further to develop what we call a remitter. It's an online payment solution that helps in the payment of taxes. And it's strictly for transparency, because a lot of people have issues with how the monies are generated and all. I'm saying all this so that we all understand that, yes, at some point, we started from somewhere, and then most countries are trying to make big strides to see how they can move on. So having said that, I would like to introduce my panelists. And as beautiful as it is, we have one very strong woman, very, very strong, the only woman on the panel, I'm sure. I was expecting women to clap. Maybe I'll drag Doctor to come and do the exercise. I don't know. Because earlier on, there was one of the speakers who said that he was scared of people who sleep without closing their eyes. So I think we have a lot of them now. But I understand. We just had lunch, and it's a normal process. So, Doctor, please help me before I continue.
Thank you, Honorable. I can see the challenge. You know, today has been a really tough day. So what I want to do is that I want to do something very unique. I'm sure you've been to a lot of conferences, but this one here is going to be a break from the norm. Kindly stand up, everybody. Levez-vous. I'd like us all to put up our right hands. And I'd like you to say, I hereby commit. No, I'm serious. No, this is a serious exercise. And you're going to see why. I hereby commit to contribute with integrity, with no collusion, and to work with freedom and fairness. Okay, kindly sit down. Kindly sit down. All right. Ce qu'on va faire maintenant, what we're going to do, in fact, I'd also like to ask you, Honorable, just to take your seat, go back to your table. This is going to be a quick exercise. Less than 10 minutes is going to be done. So what we're going to do is that we're going to make sure that we understand how important tax is. But I'm going to give you an incentive. I'm going to allow you to take away this as your motivation after the exercise. I've got a bottle of 2017 Cabernet Sauvignon. C'est du bon vin. So for those of you who don't understand French, it's just nice wine. And then for those of you who say that I am not a pombe guy, I've got a bar of chocolate, du chocolat. So what we're going to do is simple task. We're breaking you up into tables. On va vous diviser en table. This is a quick exercise. Chacun de vous, table by table. So if you'd like to join a table, it will be to your benefit. So every table, pick out a piece of paper, please. Tout le monde, everybody? Piece of paper, blank piece of paper. Mustafa, you're all alone. You think you're okay? I would advise you to join a table. There's strength in numbers. Okay, everybody? Piece of paper? Awesome. Très bien, très bien. Maman, il faut joindre ce gars-là parce que c'est pas facile. So, what I'd like you to do is come up with a name for your table. Interesting name. I just give you 15 seconds. Come up with a name for your table. It will be your UTIN, according to Honorable, your unique tax identification number. Quickly come up with your name for your table. Très vite, très vite. Yeah. So you guys are the three of you, huh? Okay, I would advise you sit together. You will need to sit together. Très bien, très bien. Faites vite, faites vite, 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 vite. Everybody together, chap, chap, chap. On fait vite. Super, super. Come up with your name. All right. On est bien? Ouais. Trouvez un nom. Si vous êtes 3 sur la table, si vous êtes 2 sur la table, il n'y a pas de problème. Mais je vous dis, c'est pas facile. So there's strength in numbers. Okay, allez. Okay, tout le monde, I think we all have our unique tax identification numbers. Est-ce qu'on est prêt? Are we ready? Okay. Votre attention, s'il vous plaît. Okay, ladies and gentlemen. So what we are going to do is that we are going to do what they call the TJNA tax assessment. And it is a team tax assessment, and you're going to work together as a team. One, do not share your results with your neighbors, because then they will have a share of your wine and your chocolat. Please, keep it close to your heart. What is going to happen is that we're going to ask a series of questions sur l'écran. On the screen, we're going to flash 13 questions. Some of the questions are going to be images. Some of them are going to be questions that you might know. Others you will have no idea. But we stood up and we made a commitment that we are going to work with integrity. And we shall not use our thieves. So let us make sure that can I have people, Brian, can I have you walking around as Brian and the TGNA team walking around, making sure, invigilators. You're my tax invigilators. If you catch anyone, please grab them from behind here. That's how we do it in Africa. All right, so are we ready? Very quickly, together, work as a team. May the best team win. Bob, ready? Ready? Oh, yes, let me get my clicker. Ça. Mesdames et messieurs, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to our PAC Tax Trivia. Aujourd'hui, on va voir who are the men, qui sont les hommes et qui sont les femmes. Who are the kids and who can handle. Are you ready? No, I want to say energy. Are you ready? Are you ready? All right, so question number 1. The questions are in English et en français. Alors tu peux pas dire, oh, j'ai pas compris parce que c'est en français. Which Roman emperor levied a tax on, of all things, collection of urine? Do not use your phones. I see anybody using phones or mobile phones or laptops? We cancel. Put all laptops closed. Close your laptops. Every laptop closed. Okay? Answer the question. Quel empereur romain a imposé une taxe sur toutes les choses à la collection de l'urine? Okay? Nero, Tiberius, Augustus, or Caligula? Okay? Next question. Ancient Egyptians taxed cooking oil and were not allowed to use it. Les anciens Égyptiens taxaient l'huile de cuisson et n'étaient pas autorisés à le réutiliser. They were not allowed to use it. You use it once, and then you have to use it again. Is it true or false? Okay? Moving on. Next one. Which country is this money from? Ça vient de quel pays? Write it down quickly. Très vite, très vite. We're not waiting time. On joue pas, on joue pas. Vite, 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 vite. Fourth question. Quatrième question. On March 31st, 1990, there were thousands of British who engaged in a protest, a violent one, against a new tax. Which tax was that? C'était quel genre de taxe? Taxe de noix, is it against nuts, like peanuts? Taxe de bière, was it an alcohol tax? Was it taxe de divorce? Or c'était taxe de vote? Before you vote, you have to pay something. C'était laquelle? All right? Moving on, if you know, you know. Si tu sais pas, laisse tomber. Cinquièmement, quel pays, where is there a TV tax? C'est quel pays? C'est Kenya, Grande-Bretagne? Is it Gabon or USA? Come on, chap, 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 chap. Let's go. Pressure. I hear people are saying move out of the way. Okay, no problem. Fifth question. Number 6. Which country is this from? Which country is this from? Come on, give us your answers. Yes. Next question. If you don't want to pay any tax on your income, which country should you live in? Is it Ukraine, Canada, Monaco, or South Africa? Choose yours. C'est laquelle pays? Si vous ne voulez pas payer d'impôt sur le revenu, dans quel pays devrez-vous habiter? C'est laquelle? Moving on. Number 8. In which country do you have a tax on cow flatulence? Do you know what flatulence is? It's called fatting. En français, c'est péter. So, il y a des pays où on paye. You have to pay a tax if your cow decides to release gas. True or false? True or false? Number 9. Which country is this from? Think. Banco Central de la République. Which country is this from? Either you know or you don't know. Question numéro 10. Okay, this is an interesting one. So, there's a guy called Peter the Great. Now, he was determined to take Russia out of, what they called the Middle Ages. So what he did is that he came up with a very interesting plan. And he had all sorts of improvements. And he introduced a very strange tax. Peter the Great. And it was so strange. Was it a tax sur les chevaux? Sur la barbe? On beards? Is it sur les poules? These sweaters, taxing sweaters. Or was it tax sur le vodka? Which one was it? A, B, C, or D? Allez, 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 allez. Come on, come on. Vera, what's happening? Action, come on. That's the team. Ha, we'll see, we'll see, we'll see. All right, question number 11. Which country is this from? Allez. Sudi Biarohanga, you're just looking there and guys. If you don't know these things, just give up, man. Lekayo, mwana. Lekayo, these things are not for you. Toby Sobola, you can't handle these ones. In your house, tu payes de l'argent. So in the 17th century, there was a certain country, depending on the number of windows you had in your house, you had to pay taxes, yes. So if you want a dark house, you don't pay the tax. So you have no windows. But if you just need one car window, yes, it's okay, this is enough. So was it England, the Netherlands, Spain, or Italy? Finally, this is my favorite question. Now, there's a country, and this is not a joke, by the way. En blague pas. If you have a lover, a girlfriend, ton amour, et tu veux passer la nuit chez elle, you have to pay a certain amount of tax before you pay. And this country has over 1,800 different student rooms. And you have to, and people pay. And you know what happens in this place here is that people at the end, when they pay the receipt, they post it online. You see who I had over? Yeah, they're happy to pay tax. This is one of the few taxes that people are happy paying. So which country is it? Israel, Italy, Romania, or France? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup. Big round of applause to everybody. Can you kindly choose one person to do the following? Ensure that you have, one, the name of your team on that paper, and put your names, your 3 names or 2 names quickly. Why? Hey, why are you ashamed? Huh? You see, that's the problem with people. They want you want to go to heaven, but you don't want to die. So, très vite, écrivez vos noms. Write your names on the paper. We will not embarrass anyone. We are only going to read the winners. So don't worry. Giving you a few seconds. Quelques minutes. Écrivez vos noms. When you're finished, kindly bring the papers here. Everybody, one person, quickly. One person, bring the paper. Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup. Très bien. Bon devoir. Très bien. Bien fait. Thank you very much. Very good. Good students. That's very good. Very good. Honorable, I think people are going to be awake for your presentation. Très bien. This is good. All right. Okay, bring them in. Emmenez. Très bien. Jean Balabala, on va voir si tu es le best. Tu sais, il y a le best du devant et puis de derrière. All right. Do we have all the results here? All the papers here? Okay. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to hand over the microphone back to Honorable, and I'm going to ask us all to give him undivided attention and leave you all to cook. So I just want to find out, when would you like your results? Today after Honorable's presentation or tomorrow morning? No. Right now, this is about seriousness, please. We are at a Pan-African conference on illicit financial flows, so please, let's be serious. Soyons sérieux. So we're going to finish the presentation. Right after that, I will give you the results, and then I will read the best individuals. Merci beaucoup. Let's give a big round of applause to Honorable.
Thank you, Mick. She's a social anthropologist studying digital taxation at a wonderful university in Sweden. She's a PhD research fellow and a lecturer there too. And her research is based on an 8-month-long ethnographic fieldwork in Kenya, located at the KRA, with tax centers in Nairobi, Kiambu, and Isiolo. If you join me, please, to welcome my friend, Nimo Elmi. She's a very powerful woman. And yes, I just remembered. Is there someone here from Aphrodite? Aphrodite. Okay, I have information to pass, gossip actually. It's very important. Yeah, and our second panelist is someone from Zimbabwe. Condolences, please, the loss of a great leader, and to all the people from Zim, we share with you, and our condolence goes to you. He's an academic and economic researcher who is currently employed as an operations manager in the Zimbabwe Revenue Authority, and he works within the Customs Excise Division. He has written papers, and one of the most interesting is he has a paper that was published in my country, Nigeria. He's an active member of ATRN and a member of the ATRN Scientific Committee. He also was part of the team that worked on the ATO, that's the African Tax Outlook. Please help me welcome Mr. Alik Mutandiro. And one of our interesting panelists too, if you notice, we have people that are from He's a chartered accountant, a member of the Chartered Institute of Taxation of Nigeria, the staff of the Federal Land Revenue Service, has worked in the tax policy department and is still there. He specializes in tax policy committees and has developed tax policy issues. And then prominent among the tax policies he has worked on is the Nigerian Tax Policy Review, and has worked also at the Tax Automation Project team. He currently is one of the key persons that is working on tobacco tax in Nigeria, and also a very young man. So if you please join me, let's welcome Mr. Femi. Yes, last but not least, a very interesting personality, Mr. Robert Sanu. Yes, I'm sure a lot of us, okay, Suna, sorry. Sorry, and he actually tried to correct my pronunciation. I'm sure for most of us who are here, you saw the name. He's a tax policy lead. He's a tax policy lead of TGNA and has worked with the URA, has a lot of experience, and while at the URA, he was involved in policy analysis and research and worked in that department as well. He was a lecturer, assistant lecturer, and he handled quantitative research methods and international economics at Mbarara University of Science and Technology in Uganda. So these four, are going to do justice to our subject of discourse, which is the digitalization of revenue administration, opportunities and challenges beyond efficiency for revenue collection. Thank you. So to confirm that I'm a gentleman, I'll start with the lady. Do you all agree? So please, do us the honors.
Thank you, everybody. I know it's quite late in the afternoon, and it's been a long day, so I'll try not to use so much of the tax jargon and make my presentation as simple and as understandable as I can. So the first thing I will start with a disclaimer is that I'm not a typical tax researcher, so I'm not from a legal or an economic background. I'm an anthropologist, and I currently work in a Department of Technology and Social Change. So you'll notice from my presentation that it will be a bit different. And then I'd like to start with a bit of also another disclaimer is that I'm not a pessimist. I know that Dr. Mugambi was talking about how we need to be very optimistic, but at the same time, I think we also have to be very cautious about how we digitalize and how we fully engage with these technologies, especially ideas that are coming from outside. Yeah. So I'll start with a fun fact, and I know that my colleagues, or rather the colleagues that I engaged with at the Revenue Authority would correct me if I'm getting it wrong. But the statistic shows that 3.6% of Kenyans filed for taxes last year. And when you compare this with a population of 49.7 million, that is only 7.2% of the population who filed their taxes last year on iTax. So I don't know how this compares to from the manual, from the period when there was manual filing, but for me, I feel like it's not significant. And does that mean that 92% of Kenyans are not filing their taxes? Or is it that we have a very large informal sector system? And why are they not being engaged with this system? So this is what I'm going to be discussing. The first thing that I noticed when I was doing my research was that iTax was mandated and made mandatory. What that means was that there was no possibility for taxpayers to use the system manually. So once they fully digitalized, people were then expected to go either to tax centers or to intermediaries to comply. So the process that was supposed to make compliance it was also very expensive for them to compete to a consultant, either to tax centers, or because there was an overwhelming majority of people who were going to the people to help them. Oh, then what this does is you involve a lot of intermediaries in the process of compliance risk, because you don't know what the person at the cyber cafe or what the person at the tax consultant's office is going to what I realized also that KRA is also facing some challenges. So because I want to also be fair, I realized that these policies were being implemented quite rapidly, and it was not giving KRA time as well to really fully understand what this automating system was. So as the taxpayers were also learning through or going through the motions of using this system, KRA was also going through this motion. So it was like a learning process for both the taxpayer and the authority. So it was important to also realize that as we digitalize, we have to maybe give it some time before we go and fully automate it. Maybe give it a couple of years for the revenue authorities to really understand what this is, how to fully implement it, how to implement the law, understand it, so that we can give at least the taxpayers a better understanding of how to comply. So that was one of the challenges I noticed that KRA was facing. And also the feedback loopholes within the authority. So most of the policies were being understood by the officers who are at the top, But the officers who are, like the normal officers who have to deal with taxpayers, were really getting frustrated because they were not really understanding why the authority was rapidly changing its digitalization policies, because some of them were not even understanding how to use iTax. I have some KRA staff members who were also telling me that they would also use intermediaries to comply. So if you have a KRA staff member who has to get help using the system, then you realize then this is also going to be more complex for a taxpayer. So I think it's important for them also to think about it that way. Yeah, and then the issue with the manual filings. Comparing to other countries that have digitalized, I live in Sweden, and I did also some research in Sweden, and I realized that 20% of the Swedes choose to file their taxes manually. So why would there not be an option for the Kenyan taxpayer to file their taxes manually? Because this is something that we realize that if you have 92% of Kenyans not already filing in the iTax platform, then there should be a way of getting people to still use the manual filing. What Sweden does is that it employs more people at their centers who can actually help the people who are unable to use the system. So 20% of the Swedes still choose to file their taxes manually. And then another issue that came up is the ownership of the systems that we are using at the revenue authorities. So what came up is that most of the foreign companies that are being engaged to implement the system actually own the system, and they are maintaining the system on behalf of the authority. So what this means is that they have a lot of power. They have a lot of power over the data that they are collecting. So yes, digitalization is important, but I think it's also important to own our own systems, support our innovative hubs, so that we know what we are producing. And if you look at iTax, for example, it's in English. So you're having foreign companies who are engaging, who are digitalizing our tax administrations, but they do not really understand the tax cultures. So it's really important we have innovative hubs, and even if they do not have the capacity, they could be engaged and they could be empowered to develop country systems that could be used. And what that does is that if there's ever a problem with the service providers, that the government or the authority owns the platforms, and you do not have to change the system. You could just bring in new people to help maintain it. Yeah, and one of the things that also shows that if we do not own the system, then we are also vulnerable. And there was a hacking incident that happened last year, and what that shows was that as much as we try to create systems that are sound, there are people who can still come in and get into these systems and also get access to our data. And then there was also an incident where many taxpayers felt that they were being punished for not really understanding how to comply. So there was a PIN deactivation incident last year, and I was actually doing field work when that happened. And what that means was that people's tax identification numbers were put offline because the authority was trying to, get the people who are not migrated to the new system, or people who are not complying, to do so. But then people felt like this was part of an enforcement regime, and they did not feel like it was constitutional to do so. Yeah, so even there were some people who went up and went to court to actually sue the revenue authority. So these are the things that, yes, digitalization is very good, but we have to really think about what are the implications for the taxpayer, and also for the authority staff members who are working there. How do we empower them to really understand and fully use the systems? So I'll leave my presentation at this right now. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I think she deserves more than that. Yeah. I'm very peculiar because, in 1991, after that conference in Beijing, women started clamoring for more rights. So I actually support it when women show support for one of them. That was on a lighter note. So having said that, Our next speaker, sorry, I had it here. Yes, Mr. Mutandiro, please. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Honorable. This feels more like a parliamentary portfolio committee, especially that Dr. Mitch has placed most of us under oath. Thank you very much, and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm here as an independent researcher and not necessarily representing the organization that employs me. To that extent, my interventions will be looking basically at the conceptual issues as they relate to my experience as an operations manager within the Revenue Authority. I've been requested specifically to look at the issues we are discussing from yesterday to tomorrow as they relate to trade facilitation. I'd like to thank TJNA for giving me this opportunity. The friends that I made before I came here, I think Brian, Winnie, Lila, Alvin, Xavier, the guys that made it possible for me to get here, and the man that has always challenged my intellect in Zimbabwe, Mukasiri Sibanda, who is also sitting here in the house. Thank you very much for this opportunity. Before I proceed to the details of my presentation, I just wanted to add a little bit to the discussion that we had before in terms of the issues of digitalization that are affecting us as African economies. We dwelt on the characteristics and all the other issues that surround that phenomenon. We did not dwell so much on the effect of the digital divide on organizations, on the economies, on even within the organizations, on the units within the organizations, and as they affect the trading community and even households. I think Mary at some point indicated that where we have, I think that's she memory Kachamba yesterday when she spoke about households and the distribution of gadgets within the households, where she made an allegory relating to the head of the house owning a smartphone, the rest of the family owning the small gadgets which are perhaps just good for MMS and phoning and radios and torches. I still note that there is an element of the digital divide affecting our families at household level. This I say as I want this to relate to trading across borders, which will be specifically the issues that I'll be looking at in terms of the efficiencies from digitalization. The greatest majority of our people, be they informal traders or formal traders, are actually importers and exporters. And I must say, to a greater extent, most of those that are in the informal sector are women, to the extent that in Zimbabwe, perhaps, without indicating statistics, when we lose a man, we've probably lost the head of the house. But when we lose a woman, we've technically lost the breadwinner. Now, looking at the essence of our presentation, I'm specifically looking at what has happened in terms of the shift from manual processes in terms of trade facilitation as they relate to various African economies, but perhaps with examples from the Zimbabwean scenario. Our guiding principles come from the World Trade Organization, the World Customs Organization, the OECD, perhaps the World Bank to a large extent in terms of their ease of doing business initiatives. These parameters have literally forced tax administrations to change or to shift the way they strategically plan their issues over the years. More so, in terms of customs issues, under the modernization initiatives, we've seen an increase in automation of processes to simplify the processes that we used to facilitate trade. There's the issue of adequate and appropriate physical and virtual infrastructure. We also have the advent of institutional arrangements that are meant to cater for the legal business expectations of all stakeholders. We've looked at supportive policy and legislative framework. We've also the issue of simplification and harmonization of processes and procedures within the organizations and within other partners or other revenue administrations. We have also looked at issues of capacity building and, more important, contemporary review of our processes in comparison with the other administrations for benchmarking. Most of the issues were indicated by Commissioner, Customs KRA in terms of the facilities that are in place, which I'll just briefly look at. We have payment platforms that involve issues of mobility, mobile banking platforms that are able to access the payment facilities that revenue authorities provide. This enables traders to pay their duties or to obtain their refunds where they've overpaid their duties using mobile platforms without leaving the comforts of their homes. And this takes advantage of digitalization in terms of financial institutions. We also have other facilities that offer interoperability across various banking sectors where users are able to use their cards, tap cards or swipe cards on point of sale to pay their taxes, or in fact, in this instance, to pay their duties as they import. We also have electronic funds transfers, which limit the time that usually institutional banking structures take to clear funds that are being transferred. We have people that pay large sums of money in order to pay the duties and facilitate importation, where such large funds are sometimes subjected to controls by the central bank. But with this enhanced electronic funds transfer system, the clearing periods for the banks have been reduced so that we are able, as revenue authorities, as customs, to facilitate release of the goods without delay. Under our customer perspectives, we're generally looking at the general traveling public, including tourists. We're also looking at importers and their brokers, including lawyers who have now come in to represent importers, especially where there are disputes with customs. We're looking at stakeholders as individuals or in associations. We're also looking at other administrations across the globe, regional or international. And these broad initiatives are actually meant to simplify the way we process documentation or declarations that are used to facilitate the supply of goods across borders. Under spatial development and technology, we have noted that modernization initiatives improve the inland and border infrastructure to meet world standards, particularly to enable border efficiency management systems. The current developments in most countries and in my country as well relate to border upgrades, which with medium to long-term initiatives towards one-stop border post concepts for improved efficiency. We also have developments that are supported by the World Bank's ease of doing business initiatives. Our spatial development plans also infuse within them the possibility of creating technological infusion within the processes. Then more important also, we have deliberately looked at constructive stakeholder engagement, because we note that as we develop processes and procedures to enhance trade facilitation, we can only do that when we consult with the people that are supposed to benefit from our service delivery. To that extent, we have also developed a number of digital platforms to facilitate e-services, as indicated by earlier speakers. Under the customs regime, we have a facility that enables brokers and importers to lodge their declarations remotely. They have access to the customs facility to lodge their declarations and to attach electronically documentation that is meant to support their declarations. At the same time, we have also integrated payment systems. We have a bit of a challenge in terms of the multiplicity of border agents, and we've tried to streamline that in order to remove duplication. Our payment platforms are integrated to the extent that levies charged by several organizations at the border are actually collected under a single window facility by the revenue authority. The other issues also relating to effective utilization of these platforms, our declaration processing at commercial levels are now virtual. We have various stations within the country that we refer to as long rooms or data processing centers, which operate 24 hours a day. The declarations that are lodged by our importers, the traders, and their brokers are actually distributed electronically to various officers across the country to the extent that anybody within those rooms is able to process and pass and validate those declarations without interfacing with the importers or traders. This has enabled us first to be efficient in terms of the processes themselves, and then to remove the interface that we have noted to support excessive discretion and possibly with implications to integrity. Then finally, the issues of cargo tracking, which Commissioner mentioned earlier on, we've also established this electronic cargo tracking systems within ZIMRA, and I've noted that within the region, I think the DRC, Rwanda, and Congo and Kenya have actually integrated that as a regional block. The efficiencies that we've gained from there is that there is faster movement of goods, there's more security in terms of the cargo itself, a benefit that also accrues to the transporters in terms of driver supervision, because we have a time limit, especially for transit cargo, within which goods must exit the country. We also note the efficiencies derived from the absence of physical inspections, which sometimes relate to breakages or pilferage and the like. We also have employed non-intrusive inspection technology within the processes, which is integrated with our document processing. All these things we've designed specifically to cater for a better turnaround period, including the dispute settlements, whose structures actually start at the point of declaration for all importers. And with those few words, I think I will end my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. He actually spoke like an operations manager, you know, the cargo, all those, yeah. So thank you, sir. Thank you for your submission, yeah. Femi?
Yeah, good afternoon. I also like to start with first thanking TJNA for this opportunity to be part of this discourse and also to share my little view on digitalization of the tax administration. Like I was introduced, I presently work with the tax administration, though I will not be speaking for the tax administration here, but I'll be sharing my experiences and what we've done and the little things we have achieved. The first thing is that we're talking about digitalization. For you to even start digitalization process, you first need to evaluate your tax system and know what you want to achieve by doing that. And I think a lot of people countries just want to rush into getting the much money they can get as fast as possible. So you said digitalization or automation, like we call it in Nigeria, is just the process of assessment, collection, or accounting through other means as electronic means. So now, what is the objective? It's to ease tax compliance, to reduce cost of administration, to create transparency and efficiency. So you now take which one you actually want to deliver first. So to map out or to create an architecture to map out what how you're going to get there. And like I said, anytime you raise the issue of I want to digitize my system, definitely when you're changing, there's always resistance. Though we say change is the only thing that is constant. But when you're changing, you should expect resistance. And now, you have to also evaluate those resistance. That brings me to what my sister talking about the concerns, the challenges of digitalization. I'll say I'm part of the policy advisor to the automation team in Nigeria. So when we approach companies that we want to connect, we want to digitize this space so that we can have we can have your transactions real time. So they raise certain questions, and the first thing they say, what is the basis for you to actually digitize the space, to collect these taxes electronically? What is the basis? What are the rights you have to ask a third party to do this on your behalf? Because definitely you need technology companies that you have to engage to develop applications and develop portals for you. So they ask such questions, and they go ahead, they ask another one, the safety, what's the safety of my data? How do you safeguard? What do you give me to ensure that my data is not going to be used anyhow? Because we understand that data, tax information has a lot of data. You look at the clientele, which will be good for your competitors. If they get, you look at the financials, you look at trade secrets and certain information that may be embedded in tax information. And so these are concerns that are always being raised. Then there's another concern that says, oh, you want to plug in, because there are some systems that say you want to plug in and deduct tax, even at source. They say, no, the law gives me some leeway, probably some window period which I can hold these taxes before you collect. So how are you going to address those concerns? So my job as a policyman is just to be able to strengthen things, create the right policies, and address these concerns. And we've been able to do that to a large extent in Nigeria. And because we understand, before you start, a tax authority and the tax administrator need to understand the sensitiveness of the information that you want to collect. And so you need to put in measures to address the concerns that have been raised. So when you want to start this, what do you need to put in place? You first need to put in place the enabling law. If your law does not accommodate that. But fortunately in Nigeria, we have a very omnibus law that makes you accommodate almost everything you want to do. There is a law in our tax administration law, which is our Federal Inland Revenue Establishment Act. There's a provision that says the tax authority shall do any other thing in its view to enhance its function of tax collection, assessment and collection. So if I feel to digitize is the other thing I need to do to enhance my function, I go ahead. The only thing is that I just educate you, let you know. Also, there is a provision that says that I can demand for returns anytime, as the case may be. You say if you feel you need returns or further information, you can ask. So all these provisions are what has helped the Nigerian automation project, though we still criticize, we still receive a lot of criticism, but what we've done is been flexible. Stakeholders were consulted before they were done. But I think, like he explained, that you don't just wake up one day and switch from manual to digital. It's a fact, actually. It's a fact. So how did we pass that? How was that done? In Nigeria, they started first. We have those we call the large taxpayers. 1 billion naira and above is the turnover. So you first say, okay, by so time, you have to migrate from the manual process to the digital process. So the ITAS one, that is for filing, you start with that process first. And so you give some time till then you move down to another threshold. And the first one, we know that most of them, we have the facilities to file electronically. So it was easy. Then from there, you move to the medium before. So, but to some extent, up till now, we have those who are still filing manually. But they are the small and medium enterprises who probably reside in some remote areas where we feel they may not have access to enough infrastructure. Also, we did something by creating a desk at the Revenue Authority where you have a computer with facilities so you can go in and use those facilities to file your returns. And these are ways that we will address some of the concerns. Now, I'll go ahead. What are the ones we put in place? The ITAS, like it was mentioned, for filing. Then after we move from there and decide to say, okay, let's automate. The ITAS is for filing. So that is assessment and filing. So we decided to also digitize the collection process. Before that, we say, okay, if someone is making his payment, he should be able to receive his receipt automatedly. So when you make your payment, you pay through also, you don't need to print your document and take to the bank to pay. Like you mentioned, Remitter, that's a private network. We also have other gateways that support our payment system. So you pay directly and you get your receipts electronically generated and sent to you too. So we have the e-receipt, the e-TCC, so you can apply for a tax clearance certificate online and it's been processed for you. So you also have the e-credit note for the withholding tax. So you have all this automated. We went ahead, moved to sectors to automate the collection. We went to the banking sector. Somebody mentioned it yesterday. You can automate transactions within the banking sector, real time, and the tax authority gets those information and waits for the money. We have also we've automated the aviation sector too. We are doing the retail stores and so many. So we took them in phases. The one for filing, assessment came first. Then we moved to the one for collection. So those had, but we consulted. This stakeholder engagement spoke to their tax intermediaries, the consultants, their lawyers, bring them into the room. But you know, one interesting thing is that when you tell people, I want to automate your sector, they don't say, oh, don't automate my sector. What they just say is that, why are you people disturbing us? Why don't you go to those who are not paying? So the issue for Nigeria was that we look at it that, okay, the one we are getting, we believe there's a leakage in it, so you're not getting enough. So let's first take care of the ones we are seeing, that we can see that, okay, there's tax here. But they are not, it's not the people who are falsifying or trying to evade taxes. So you move to ensure you close those leakages. Now, how do you address the issue of data privacy, which is almost like the greatest that we've had so far? If you go into, and I said you need a good legislation to do that, and you need to put in place things like sanctions to address that. So in our Establishment Act, for the Tax Authority Establishment Act, in Section 39 and about Section 50, it addresses that, it says that the information or data of taxpayers should be considered as secret and confidential. And to that extent, no staff or officer of the organization can reveal such information without due authorization. And when I say due authorization right now, it also went ahead to even forbid such information to be used as evidence in the court of law. So even a judge cannot call for a tax information in a criminal evidence. The only case where such information can be given out, if it is a case to generate more tax. So if I'm doing a case of tax evasion, the only way I can say, oh, this man has evaded tax is by bringing out the information of the ones, the ones they have submitted to me, and say, oh, I feel you have not given enough information, and so this is what you have given so far. I can present it in court because the essence is still for tax administration. So these are things every tax authority and every government need to put in place to actually when you're automating. We have also we sign on to we released an income tax country by country regulation last year, and there is also a clause on confidentiality of tax information. They say you preserve such information that you've received as a confidential information. And at least, they use it at least the same way that it would apply in if such information was provided under a mutual convention and mutual administrative assistance. And I know all those conventions have very strict provisions concerning how you reveal information. Also, our avoidance of double taxation treaties have strict provisions for confidentiality of data and of tax information. Also, the Multilateral Convention for Mutual Administrative Assistance on Tax Matters also addresses the issue of confidentiality. We have the Nigerian Data Protection Regulation Act of 2019 also addresses this. So, and one thing that I think we should also take, when we are signing on to the exchange of information, is the issue of aligning with global standards by ensuring that tax authorities actually are certified. Maybe the ISO, International Safety Organization, ISO Standard 27001, which we also try to do in Nigeria, and to ensure that all data given to us are adequately safeguarded. I've also tried to check other countries around us, and I see South Africa have similar confidentiality provisions, and I also spoke to people in Ugandan authority, and I saw some confidential information that's similar. And I believe this way to go to ensure that taxpayers' information and they are at rest when they're supplying the information. Thank you.
Thank you, Femi. Well, I want to commend the audience. We'll soon be done. I know you've tried. Please indulge us and give us a few more minutes, and we'll be out of here. So, Robert, please.
Thank you, and I request Honorable that I stand because I realized this side was not seeing me, this thing was covering me. The second, that I want to stand on the shoulders of powerful men here who have spoken already. And I will speak to one aspect, not as a formal staff of the URA or the Ghana Revenue Authority, and not as a current staff of the Tax Justice Network of Africa, but I will speak at one factor that usually is ignored in trying to benefit from the advantages of automating tax administrations, and that's the investment in people, the human resource. In my current work at the Tax Justice Network Africa, I one time engaged myself with a private practitioner who is a lawyer, and he asked me, Robert, if you're telling us transparency from the Tax Justice Network perspective, what do you recommend? And I said, well, we all know the ABCs of transparency: automatic exchange of information, public beneficial ownership registers, and country-by-country reporting. Then he asked me, if we give you access to the public beneficial ownership registers, what are you going to do with them? If companies agree to do country-by-country reporting and that information is in the public domain, what are you going to do with it? If we agree that there is automatic exchange of information across revenue jurisdictions, what are you going to do with it? So it took me back to understand that automating revenue administration involves investing in the whole chain of people, processes, and systems. Now, what has been happening is that we invest a lot of money in buying and procuring very heavy machinery, systems. I mean, some of them are on loan to be paid on interest, others are donations. And then you reach the user of that system has not been well grounded to utilize the system. And then you have to invest again in building capacity when the system is already running. And then when he's about to master how to utilize the system, you introduce another one. So the user himself is getting system fatigue, and also the customers who are the revenue taxpayers have not gotten to understand it, and now you're changing the system. So that's one aspect that we need to address. How do we empower our people in the data analytics to utilize even the existing data before we even think of automating? There is a lot of information in revenue authorities that is rotting and has not been utilized. They wait for a technical guidance from somewhere, an external technical guy who is going to come and tell them, wow, there is revenue in this data. So let's not look at the systems as the overall solution to enjoying the efficiencies from the tax system, but invest in the people who are running the systems. The second point is yesterday in the opening panel, and even today, the commissioner from KRA pointed to it. They need to harmonize systems across board. I always told people that tax administration is a whole of government issue. It's not a revenue administration issue. So the systems in the revenue authorities are moving very fast. They are going very fast, but you find other government institutions which are supposed to provide information are on the lower edge. But that does not come in a fortnight. You need to review the legal system. For instance, if the revenue authority passes a law and says, I'm requiring any person who earns $1 million to go through going through the central bank, all that information should be shared with the revenue authority. The central bank will use the same submission my brother from Nigeria gave and say, we have what we call data security clauses that cannot allow us to disclose people who are transacting such amount of money to the revenue authority. So governments must work together and say, we are looking for a common goal. We are looking for increase in domestic revenue mobilization. So if there is anything for the benefit of the country, we should be willing to review our systems across board. It should not be looked at as a burden of tax administration. I submit and I thank you for your time.
I choose to follow suit and stand. I think primarily because I've been sitting for a bit. We'll try and make it very fast and snappy so that we would be out of here within the next few minutes. We're open to questions, so we'll take the questions as a whole, then the answer, and then we're done. So let me start from here. You're 1, you're 2, you're 3, you're 4. Oh, 4 questions. That means a lot of people understood what happened. No, then 5. So 1, please.
Yeah, good afternoon. I want to appreciate the panelists. My name is Chinedu. I work for CISLAC, Nigeria. My question goes to the lady. She's talking about challenges of users of the platform. I'm a bit confused because the issues we have on IFF is the information not being in one place and a system that will help us track. We are also complaining about it. What do you have to say about secrecy, or how would you advise that will take care of the challenges, that the discretions that goes with manual computation and the calculation of taxes?
Thank you. My name is Mwajuma, and I work with Uganda Revenue Authority. My question goes to Mr. Femi. You mentioned that you were talking about the confidential nature of the tax information received from the taxpayers, and I just need to be sure that I got you correctly when you said that it's so confidential that you don't even share it with the courts. in case you have a matter in court or something. I just need some clarification on how you go about it when you need to present information regarding a taxpayer to the court. And then what happens if the taxpayer himself is the one who has taken the IFRS to court? Do you use these same documents that have been presented to you before the court, or does it still cover the confidentiality process? Thank you.
Thank you. I've introduced myself many times from KRI Chande. I want to put few clarifications on the iTax system in Kenya. And thank you, Madam. You've given actually the challenges, but the positives, none of them. Just to mention, the filing rating, I think needs to clarify. One, the filing are in two categories. One, they are annual returns and they are monthly returns. So the statistics you gave, I didn't get whether they were on the monthly. The number two, there are different tax heads, VAT, PAYE, corporation tax, etc., etc. And to give you now the current statistics, I had the MTO division in KRA. The statistics for this month, the filing rate is at 96% on PAYE. It is at 89% on VAT, and it runs across. Therefore, maybe the 7.5. Number two, the 7.5, if it is against the total population, it is not every other person in Kenya who has a PIN, who files. One, we've got a big population which is in school, which we do not have. So if we compute filing against the total population, that may not give us good statistics. Maybe the final one I would say on the system. We've gone to a level where the filing of Kenya in returns is 100% automated. There is no single manual filing of returns. This system has gone further to do cross-matching on more benefits than the challenges. And this one, we have been in it from 2013 to now current date. And there were definitely challenges when we started, which we consider to be teething problems. For now, we have gone to improve day by day. Thank you very much.
I have no number, so it's just a supplementary. Just to point out, I'm Steve Kaporoma from Malawi Revenue Authority. There was a talk of the Revenue Authority penalizing taxpayers because they have not adopted a new system. But when you have introduced a new system, you want as many people as possible to join into this new system so that they all benefit from that system. For example, in the Malawi Revenue Authority, we introduced e-payment. So we are requiring all taxpayers to pay online, mainly because we had a problem, huge problem of refund to drawer checks, which was running towards 6 billion. But once we introduced e-payment, that came to zero. And therefore, there are still others that would want to go and claim that we are penalizing them. But when you look at the benefits of having 6 billion revenue lost because of RD checks, it makes sense that the Revenue Authority, at the long end of the analysis, they have to find people that are reluctant and force them. And sometimes penalization is the last resort. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Oswa. I have numerous questions, sorry. I just want to ask, in your view, will automation of a tax system be effective when business procedures within the administration is not well defined? Okay, and in other words, where in the manual system there's ambiguity in procedures. Another one is what payment platform is used in collecting the taxes? Is it an independent payment platform or is it a platform of the government? And how does the central bank receive the payment in real time? The last one is, how do you treat double rates in automating system? For instance, in terms of treaties, when there's double rates, how does the automation system treat it? And sorry, the last one, it's what challenges did you face from staff when automating the system, and what was the solution? I'll be grateful if the Kenya Revenue Authority also respond to it, since they have also automated their system. Thank you.
Bonjour, je me présente, je m'appelle... Alors, je disais, je me présente, je m'appelle Aïcha Karafi, je suis de la Tunisie. Ma question, c'est dans l'objectif de faire du benchmarking, et elle s'adresse à monsieur. Est-ce que vous avez créé un cadre réglementaire pour la déclaration en ligne? Et quels sont les procédés que vous avez adoptés au cas où il y a des pièces jointes à la déclaration? Je donne un exemple. Par exemple, la déclaration de l'impôt sur les sociétés. Les entreprises doivent déposer les bilans et d'autres pièces. Donc, que faites-vous pour ces pièces-là? Et est-ce que les données qui sont sur la déclaration et sur les états financiers sont transférées au système d'information de l'administration fiscale pour des besoins de recoupement et éventuellement de contrôle? Et enfin, j'aimerais bien que vous expliquiez un petit peu ce que vous entendez par double taux. Vous avez parlé d'un double taux d'imposition, et madame aussi. Je n'ai pas bien compris comment on évite ce double, le fait d'appliquer un double taux lorsqu'on a une déclaration en ligne. Merci.
I'll start with the gentleman who asked the question about the secrecy. I would like you to clarify your question. Were you asking me to give recommendations on the issue of secrecy of data with... could you just please clarify? Somebody could give him a microphone.
All right, thank you. Yeah, what I meant was that the issues that we have with discretion and in relation with manual computation are the things that actually fuels IFF. You leave the tax administrator that meets a particular company to determine what happens between them in that transaction. And for us, for me and for my organization, we believe that real-time and automation of information is the key. And maybe I didn't hear you properly, but your presentation was sounding to me as if that the automation is a challenge and the people needs to be carried along. If we have to find a solution to IFF, then we have to buy into automation. We don't have to agree to people saying that manual is better. So I was asking, what is your opinion on how to solve that?
I understand now. Yeah, so because the main aim of the panel was to discuss, what we think the challenges are. But what I know for a fact is that forcing people to use a system that they are not really
confident with using or are not conversant with will not increase their compliance, will not make them actually use it to declare. That has been proven. And so, like countries that I've also been studying, for example, and I use Sweden because I've been doing research in both Kenya and Sweden. And what Sweden does is that it creates a platform for them to actually come in, and it doesn't mean that when they file manually that information does not go to the automated system. It's just that they get help doing it. Because once you make it mandatory for them to go through iTax, then a lot of mistakes can be made when you bring a lot of intermediaries into this. You have tax consultants, you have cyber cafe operators based on somebody's budget. So I think it would be helpful if we could at least allow for the people who are not able, for people who live in remote areas, because you do have an economy that's happening there. And by using systems that they're not conversant with, you're closing them out of the economy. That's what I have seen through my research. So if we really want to bring the data into the system, it's not difficult to do it. You can actually do it. So I think there's a way of meeting people halfway and giving them time to actually become more comfortable, actually maybe giving them more trainings on the system. I see that as being the solution to that. With regards to the commissioners, thank you for the clarifications. And I was just going to talk about the challenges because one of the keynote speakers was really talking about, all the positive things that digitalization. So I agree, there are a lot of positive things, but I think the voices that are not being heard are the people who are not represented, who are not able to get on board and are not able to use this system. So I think they have to be met halfway. And there has to be measures to actually get them to comply. And because there's been a historical relationship between the administration and the taxpayer that has always been a bit based on fear and not really strengthened with the values of trust, I feel like the more you force people to use a system that they're not really comfortable with, the more you actually widen the gap between the administration and the taxpayer. And that is not going to influence the tax behavior or increase tax compliance. So I feel like the more we get to understand what people's challenges are, the more the practice becomes better. And the numbers I was referring to are on the yearly returns. So it was a report that I found on a World Bank report, and they had received this data from KRA. So if I'm wrong, then, yeah, but I think that was the data that they had officially used to show that, that there is a large informal sector that's not captured on iTax because they are not able to, whether it's the and I think it's the people who are mostly self-employed who fall into this category that I'm quoting. So my sister from the Ghana Revenue Authority, I agree with you that for you to do better, you have to know better. And the employees within the Revenue Authority have to be really empowered for them to actually give better services to the customers. So yes, they would need to have better systems, and the systems have to be well developed for them to actually do a good job at administering the digitalization. And then the challenges, I will let people who work with the Revenue Authority to answer, because I would not have much to say than what I presented. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll respond to the question on the attachments to online declarations, but only as far as they relate to customs declarations. My colleague will look at the same issue under the taxes regime. As I indicated in my presentation, we have a facility that enables traders or their brokers to lodge their declarations online. The platform itself contains a single administrative form which the broker or the trader completes. Then where there are requirements to attach any documents, there's a facility to upload copies, scanned copies in PDF form of the documents that are required as supporting documents, particularly the invoices, the shipping documents, the bill of lading, any other documents that support the declaration. This enables the official who is processing that declaration within the system to check and verify the correctness of the declaration in terms of its origin, the valuation, and any other issues related to requirements before he validates the declaration itself. Where there is a dispute or where there is a query in terms of the values and so on, the query is actually raised by the officer within the system, and in response, the broker or the trader is able to electronically reply to the query that has been raised, and if there is need for additional attachments, is also able to upload, again, additional information required, which means the document being processed continues to be a live document with amendments, adjustments, which may also relate to the eventual duties and taxes payable, to the extent that the broker or the trader still has control in terms of adjusting his own declaration as far as the validation requirement is pertinent to the importation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'll also start with the first issue somebody raised about tax authority, the staff. I think capacity building of the staff is also very essential when you're migrating from manual process to an automated system. So you need to, it's like you want to producing a product and you want to sell such, but the people you are supposed to sell, that are supposed to sell the product for you don't even know the product. So you first build the capacity of your staff to understand the system before launching. So that is how it should be handled. Then when it comes to also address the issue of central bank and information, among the government authorities, I'll tell you that once you're government, you can share information. Government, it's one. It's just that what you use that information to do is what matters. That is where the issue of confidentiality comes in. So I don't believe the telecommunication regulator will see an information that has to do a communication between a terrorist and somebody else, and they will not release it to the NSA and say it's confidential, to the security agencies. So what you use that information to do, there are laws and guidelines on what it says. And that goes to my sister that asks if courts, how do you reveal this information? Like I said the only case where you can reveal such information in court is if you're prosecuting for a tax evasion. So the essence is that you want to address a tax issue, but not any other issue. Somebody will not bring a case and say, oh, a certain person is owing me, and from what I gathered in his, please tell him to supply his tax information last year. I know so person paid him certain amount of money, and you want the tax authority to bring that information. No. If you want to arrive at maybe another tax, you are claiming a tax evasion issue, yes, you supply it. So the courts, the judge will not just call the tax authority to supply information when it is not a tax case. So that is what I meant. Osua from Ghana, I say, why automation? Okay, what's automation effective where business procedures are not defined? Like I said, before you start automation, you need to plan for it. You need to know your objectives, what you intend to achieve. And like I said, there must be a period for migration. In the long run, what do you want to achieve? In the short run, and in the nearest future. So you have to have objectives. So when you come to business procedures, of course, how do you carry out those things? So we have a business analysis unit among the automation team who analyzes and give business procedures. So that is necessary. You say, what payment platform do we use? Yeah, we use a private payment. We have a private payment platform, and we also have the government, the one that is the central bank also controls. So they are like intermediaries. But you know what? In Nigeria, tax money are not to be held by any bank. So immediately, or any payment platform. So immediately it's paid to you, you remit to the central bank almost immediately. I think they give them about 24 hours or so, or less than, just to clear the issue. So, and it goes straight to CBN, and the tax authority can do the reconciliation with CBN later, the central bank later. So the issue, challenges of staff, like I said, the challenges that will come first is if staff don't know what you're doing. So if you equip your staff enough, you've educated them. Like I said, we even go to the extent of educating the consultant and the people that will use the platform. So your staff will also be involved. So if not, of course, they will also reach issue. About treaty rates. For treaty rate, there are procedures in actually. So we can give an exception to some cases on how to deal with such cases. I may not be able to tell you how treaty rates are handled right now, but of course, once it's agreed, once you've gotten the right approvals, the right agreement, you can apply the rates. But I believe there are exceptions for such cases to address that. Talking about regulatory framework for online tax remittance, if we have a regulatory framework for online tax remittance, right now we don't have a regulatory framework right now. But like I said, what we try to do is to just develop what we call a public notice or a circular to address what government is trying to do. And like I said, we have an omnibus law that allows you to a lot of things. So we just write a public notice and say, this is how we want to do it, and this is the reason, and this is the enabling law that allows us to do it. So probably that may even sound like a regulatory framework. It may not be as adequate like a regulation or so, but it's just to explain what you want to do to you, what the tax authority is trying to do. I think I've answered all the questions. Okay, about data, how documents are stored. Yes, you do your filing, like my friend said, yeah, there are provisions for upload of documents. And also, what we still do in Nigeria is that we still allow some space for that manual documents. So after you have submitted your information online, upload the ones you can upload, you come around and submit those bulky documents that you cannot upload. So it will be like a second leg verification for us. But we have all the necessary information in those documents uploaded already. So, like I said, we believe digitization cannot be completed almost immediately. So there's a migration period. Probably maybe we'll get to a time where everything may be full. But for now, we believe we are not in a perfect environment, and we need to also consider the imperfections of the environment. And so that is how we handle it. Thank you.
Nothing useful to add.
Thank you very much. Asante sana to everyone for being a wonderful audience. For the sake of those who want to take home, I just want them to 2 sentences, just say something, just summarize what they've said. 2 sentences, please, so that those who are tweeting and those who are taking notes can just pick that for their notes. 2 sentences, please.
I think I'll use the female version of 2 sentences. So I said digitalization is it's great for leapfrogging development. However, we need to do it at our own pace so that we do not leave anybody behind. The ICT infrastructures should correspond with the policies that are being implemented. And we should own our own systems. And lastly, but not least, the revenue authorities should create more spaces for helping taxpayers so that they would not be forced to always seek intermediaries when trying to comply. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable. My 2 sentences relate to just 2 specific aspects. I think there is a greater need now for both business and regulators to invest in research and development and capacity building so that we are able to move at the same pace. Then my second take-home is that there is now a greater need for constructive engagement across both the device that we are looking at to enable us then to shape up strategies that are supportive of each other from across the table. Thank you.
Okay, well, my one is that I would like to say digitization is the way to go because it creates efficiency and it is the only way to also capture those digital transactions. Thank you.
Thank you. 2 sentences. 1, to harness the benefits of digitization of revenue administration, there is need to invest in human resource to complement the processes and the systems. When the system breaks down, the human resource and the processes will be alive. Ensure to harmonize all the legal procedures to enable the interaction of systems from all the government departments so that the revenue administration can utilize the data. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup. Karibu di sana. Thank you very much for your time. Now go de the kokeri. Ding chiwo bet. So I've spoken like how many languages? 5, right? So who is ready for the results now? I'm sure everyone's going to wake up. So while he comes, I'll make my statements. In summary, I think we all agree that digitalization is good. Because from the experiences we've shared here, it suggests that it has improved collection, it has improved the quality of data we have, and above all, we can rely on that data. But the worries are about data integrity. Like what someone mentioned yesterday, it goes beyond even tax administration because we put out data on Facebook, we say so much, and then now that data is money, it can be sold to third parties. So my take, my own addition to all this is, we should take a leaf from what Logan, Dereje, and Alvin said yesterday, and which suggests one thing. We are Africans. We should find our own way of doing our thing. Let us prepare. I really appreciate TGNA for something. And when Alvin spoke yesterday, he said something critical. Most of the things he has done has criticized the mind. People always ask, are you sure we're ready for this? And at most times, it comes at the right time. I am particularly grateful because we should learn to be proactive. We shouldn't be palliative. Let us seek what the future holds and then try to prepare for it. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
All right, let's give a huge round of applause to our stellar panel. I think they've done a great job considering that it's been a very long day. And I think all of our presenters today have done an awesome job of unpacking very complex issues. Cryptocurrencies, mobile money, looking at aspects of making money in one place and then finding out who has the taxing rights somewhere else. So I just like to say thank you to each and every single one of you. And I just like to remind us that we do have a session which is going to be run by Oxfam. It was supposed to have happened yesterday, so it's going to be at the Narumoru room, which is on the mezzanine floor. So please take some time to go and just network a bit. Members of the press corps, please do attend. It's at no extra cost. In fact, members of the press corps, we have a press allowance for you. And if you are not a member of the media, do not say all of a sudden that I'm a journalist and change your profession. Oh, yes, I also forgot to say a special welcome yesterday. You know, it's always good to give reverence where necessary. I'd like to say a special welcome to Madame Bola Dula Rita, Directeur Général de la Direction Générale des Recettes du Kinshasa, Congo. Let's give her a big round of applause and thank you for being here. Merci beaucoup d'être venu. She's the chef de la délégation du Congo, and we'd like to thank her for taking time for coming to this conference. All right, so now, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, are you ready? No, I don't hear the energy. Let's try again. Are you ready? No, that's not the energy you have when results are coming out from exams, huh? So what we're going to do is that before I read the results, why don't I show you the results so you can gauge whether you want to wake up and go away or you want to stay. Tu sais, il y a des gens, quand on va te montrer les réponses, tu vas voir que peut-être tu as eu peut-être maybe 1 ou 2 réponses correctes. So, on va voir. So, go ahead, Bobman. Let's have the screen. So, ladies and gentlemen, our first question. Oh, yes, I have the clicker, don't I? Yes, I'd forgotten I can do it myself. So, first one. Yes. A lot of people se demandent pourquoi. Why were the Romans back then collecting urine? Ça servait à quoi? What was urine used for? Now, one of the active ingredients in urine is ammonia. And ammonia back then they used to use it as a bleach. So to keep your clothes nice and white and clean, you wash it with urine. I'm wondering what type of science that is because I thought it would go yellow, but that's what they used to use back in those days. So here the correct answer was Emperor Nero. How many of you got that? Okay. Okay, attends, on va voir. Let's move on. 13 questions to go. Second one. The Egyptians used to tax oil and they were not allowed to reuse it. Yes. Actually, that was a strategy. They thought to themselves, how can we generate more revenues for our empire? One, let's tax the thing that our subjects use the most. Tu peux l'utiliser une fois, mais après ça, il faut jeter. And what they used to do is that they used to send soldiers to the house to check. On te bouscule, on te va, okay, do you have any hidden under the bed and what? And they check, and if you had any, they pour it, and you have to buy and you have to pay the tax. Deuxièmement. How many of us got this? Not bad. Good students. This was from Zimbabwe. Really, you guys, you people never heard of the $multi-million, I think this is quadrillion dollar note, $100 trillion. Hey, you people have never seen this note. Which country did you think this was? America? Really, really, really? Yes. No, this one happened way before. You know that you've used 506. I hear he has pruned several zeros. It's not. He's saying that it's not his. It's okay. But I must tell you that we are very proud of you. You're the only country that is proud enough to put $1 trillion on a note. We are very proud of you. Very proud of you. Yes, this is Zimbabwean currency. Number 4. Which tax was this? 1990. Est-ce que vous vous souvenez d'une femme qui s'appelait Margaret Thatcher? This was the tax which brought her down. The poll tax. Tu sais ce qu'elle a dit? Elle voulait que toutes les personnes qui votent, ils payent quelque chose. Every time, her suggestion was, look, to make more money for the party, we're going to charge everyone before they vote. And this one caused an uproar in the UK. And this led to her downfall. It was a poll tax. Everybody thought, oh, you know, these British like drinking, so it must be beer. It must have been beer. How many of you thought it was beer? Wrong. Next question. In which country is there a TV tax? Once again, the British. They got it right, man. In fact, tu sais, en tant que taxe, je pense que cette taxe-ci is one of the most successful tax in the world. Because if you have a television in the UK, you have to pay this. I think it's 100 and something pounds, 120, 150. I think there's a year they even collected close to 1.4 billion pounds just on TV tax.
We have this tax in my country.
Tu l'as aussi? Oh, en Tunisie. Et vous payez combien? How much do you pay in Tunisia? Not a lot. C'est combien en tant que dollar? How much is it in dollars? In Tunisia, they also have it. It's like $5, but still, it's in Niger. You've got it. In Niger, how much is it in Niger? C'est combien? En dollars, c'est combien? 1 point something dollars, huh? Every single year. C'est par mois. So at least every single year they pay close to something like $14 or $15. It's a successful tax. It works. So for those of you who put the UK, good job. Next. Which country is this? China. Uh-huh. I'm sorry, but c'est très important. You people need to travel. This thing of staying in your country and only coming to Kenya for conferences, no. C'est important, il faut voyager. Faut aller en Asie. Travel a bit, you'll see these things. That is what they call 100 RMB. Renminbi. Next one. How many got this? Très bien, très bien. This one here, I'm sure, was the first course. I think it was Tax 101. Si tu as étudié les taxes, they must have told you about this one here. One of the best tax havens ever. Monaco. Number 8. Is it true that certain countries in the world have to pay taxes when cows fart? Est-ce que c'est important? Yes. Yes, it is very true. Actually, there are quite a number of European countries that pay taxes for cow flatulence because they emit a certain gas called methane. So yes, that's a way to make money. And you Africans, you people all have cows. We should charge your cows also for gassing. Very important. Robert Suna, you have been clapping since the beginning. If your team does not win, si vous ne gagnez pas, pas possible. Yes, which country was this? L'Argentine. Some people are scratching their head and say, mais on nous a pas appris ça à l'école. They didn't teach this in school, but of course not. Number 10. Peter the Great came up with all sorts of unique, stupid taxes. This one here was an interesting one. He taxed beards. You know, it's cold in Russia, so from a cultural standpoint, people have their beards to keep their chins warm. So he said, how can I make money from this? So he said, I'm throwing a tax on that one also. And actually, it worked. It worked. He ended up taking Russia out of the Middle Ages. Which country is this? Australia. Some people are saying, no, it must be pounds. It must be pounds. This was Australian. Queen Elizabeth is on all of them, but this one here is a little bit different. So if you know the British one, you must know, okay, this one must be another one. Window tax, back again. These British are really ingenious. Huh? They've got all the right taxes. And finally, the country you should all visit. Hey, put it on your bucket list. Choses tu dois faire avant de mourir. Things you must do before you die. Visit Romania. Voila. So ladies and gentlemen, it's with great pleasure that I would like to say, okay, let's start first with great concern. It's with great concern that I'd like to say that there are certain teams here that got 1 out of 13. Let's give a big round of applause for their efforts. Yes. That shows that we are headed in the right direction, but we are not moving fast enough. Tu sais, on est en train d'aller, mais tu vas pas assez vite. So we need to pull up our socks. But at the same time, I'd like to say that there are teams that did extremely well. So what I'd like to do is to mention all the teams that got, actually, let's say, let's say this. I'm going to mention all the teams that got above 8 out of 13. Somebody have a calculator? What percentage is that quickly? Les gens qui ont fait des maths, people who did math, 8 out of 13, that's how much? What percentage? What percent? Quel pourcentage? 62%. That is not bad. That is a credit. C'est un crédit for those of you who have studied. So I would just like you to stand up just for recognition. We're going to clap for you. And so let's just mention them in passing. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome David, Alik, and Mustafa. Team Change. Big round of applause. Great job. Bien fait. Très bien fait. Ladies and gentlemen, with 8 out of 13, Dorcas, Frank, Deborah, tax justice champions. Great job, great job. Ladies and gentlemen, with 8 out of 13, the Dr. Doolittle team. Wimo Lailei. Huh? Where's the Dr. Doolittle team? Stand up, please. Stand up. Good. Good job. It's with great concern that I've noted that they're all from the same line. Huh? So it's like they decided, let the first guys answer and we all cheat. Huh? All right, so, ladies and gentlemen, with 8 out of 13, Harambe Group, James, Magara, and Donald. Congratulations, 8 out of 13. Ladies and gentlemen, I was making fun of them, but they did a good job. Team Simba, Sudhir, Charles, Isaac, and Grace. Big round of applause to them. Good job, good job. Ladies and gentlemen, Team Fair Tax, Benedict, Sharon, Papa Samba, Julie, where are you? Big round of applause. And ladies and gentlemen, Team Simba, Pirfa, Vera, where are you? Big round of applause, good job. And that marks everybody who got 8 out of 13. We have another group, a unique group of individuals. There are only 2 that got 9 out of 13. Which is mathematically my accountant, c'est combien? 9 sur 13, combien? How much is that? 75? 69. 69%. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give it up for Enrique, Judith, Uswa, Team Joy. Big round of applause. Hey, great job, great job. And ladies and gentlemen, another team that got 9 out of 13, Emka, Regina, and Carol, the Tax Trio. Whoa, good job, good job. Ladies and gentlemen, this is where we're going next. Can I kindly have the next 2 teams standing here? I'd like Julius Okot, Robert Tanti, and Jackie Barboza, the Unity team. Please come here. Come here. Come here and stand here, please. Stand here, please. And can I have Team Wakanda? Can I have Team Wakanda here, please? Team Wakanda, please stand here. Please stand here, Team Wakanda. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, in our first ever TJNA Tax Trivia Championship, I'd like to say that there are two teams that did an awesome job and both got an equal score. They tied with 10 out of 13. Big round of applause. So, what we would like to do to hand over this is something very simple. And in the spirit of partnership, we'd like to say, would you like to discuss amongst yourselves, or would you like me to determine how to give these out? I would advise, if you can agree, il faut choisir. Je vais vous donner la chance. Si vous pouvez parler, discuss with them, or I will decide how it's given out. They have said another competition. No. Nous sommes en Afrique. En Afrique, on dit que les gens, ils ont du rythme. They say in Africa we have rhythm. So what we'd like to do is that, DJ, I want you to warm these guys up. What's going to happen is that the team that can throw down the most dangerous dance moves. So, no, wait. So, this is your chance to walk away and hand over the prize, or you can stay and fight like a man or like a woman. So, the chance is here. You asked for another competition. The competition is here. Either you stay and fight like men or women, or you walk away like a coward. So, would you like to stay and fight? Est-ce que vous allez rester ici et vous battre?
Yeah, it's unfortunate I don't dance on Wednesdays.
Ask your partner. Huh?
Je reste pour le combat. Hein? Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, he's staying to fight. Big round of applause. Oh! Il n'a pas peur. He's not scared. So let's wait. Let's ask here. Let us find out. Would you like to hand over to him because he's not scared? Il n'a pas peur. Would you like to stay and fight?
We'll take him.
You're going to take him. Oh! Are you ready to combat?
No.
No. Are you ready to stand and fight?
Till the very end.
Till the very end! Oh! Bob, do you know what we need to do? We've got two combatants from this side here, one combatant from there. Even if you don't dance on Wednesdays, you'll stay and be a cheerleader. All right, are we ready? What I want you to do is that I want you to take me to West Africa. I want some lingala. Hey, I want people to get some rhythm. Yes. So meanwhile, you can sit down, think of your strategy. Think of your tax dance strategy. Faut parler. Il n'y a pas de problème. Pas de problème. So ladies and gentlemen, up for grabs here. We've got a bottle of 2017 Sauvignon vin. Just know it's a nice wine. Bob, are we okay? Take a second to get your jam order. Okay. Steve, are we good? Almost. I like that. So, yes, you have a question?
Me and this guy, what happens to us?
No, you guys, you have to stay here and cheer. You must cheer. This is your team, and you decided to stand here. I asked you to discuss like real good tax administrators. You refused, and you said you want to dance, and so we must dance. Okay. Are we good to go? Yes. Awilo Longomba, yes, you give me those guys. Yes, give me some hot lingala. These people must understand the value of this bottle of wine. C'est pas facile, hein? La vie n'est pas facile. OK? Oh! All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're starting with this side here. Stop the music. Stop. It needs to be fair. Does anybody have a coin? I need a coin for full transparency. Full transparency. I don't want people to say, I forced you. Okay? Tu vas choisir. All right? Heads is you, tails is you. What is it? Heads. You start. Heads, you start. We are giving them, you have 20 seconds each. Tu as 20 secondes à danser. You need to pull out your best dance moves. Because we're not going about this a second time. DJ, 3, 2, 1, action! All right, we have witnessed the submission from this side here. Question is, can the other team bring the fire? 3, 2, 1, action! All right, huh? Okay. We're going to make it very simple, very simple. I'm going to point to a side. If you want them to win, all you're going to do is scream tax, 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 tax. If you don't want them to win, don't say anything. All right? Ladies and gentlemen, to this side. Okay? Ladies and gentlemen, to this side here. And we have a winner! All right, so félicitations, congratulations. There we have it. Can we, excuse me, Alvin, can you come and hand over this to the winning team? We have new tax trivia champions. Thank you very much. Thank you for participating. There you are. Hey, ha! Les gens sont en train de demander qu'on donne le bar de chocolat aux madame. Hey, Alvin, that's corruption. That's what we're fighting. Illicit flow of finances. He's moving it in the wrong direction. Alvin, please. We are talking about these things. Let's give it to the correct individual. Then after that, if he wants to give to the lady, he can give. Big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Even the chocolate is his. Then he can see if he needs to be taxed or not. Si tu veux lui donner le chocolat, it's okay. Excuse me, you have been summoned. You have been summoned. Idi, I can't believe illicit flows. Big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. This is a sign of good sportsmanship. All right, félicitations. Kindly take your seats. Merci beaucoup. So, merci beaucoup. Oh, do you have a victory speech? Tu veux dire quelque chose? Non. Speech.
Très bien. Bonsoir à tous. Nous sommes contents d'être là. 2 jours très riches d'échanges fructueux, de partage de savoir, mais qui prend fin par un jeu et nous sommes très contents d'avoir gagné le jeu. Lui, il est anglophone, moi je suis francophone. La concertation a été très bien, mais l'essentiel, on a gagné. Et le nom de notre équipe, nous l'avons dénommé Unité. Donc c'est dans l'unité que les transformations, les grandes, se mèneront. Merci. Thank you.
All right, merci beaucoup. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to now invite you to the Money Trail event upstairs being hosted by Oxfam. Let's meet again tomorrow here at 8:30 a.m. Merci beaucoup. Bonne nuit et que Dieu vous bénisse. All right, God bless. Good night.
Wasisameno kala ingangu ngo mwebani kesakane